Welcome to Fancounters. My name's Nick.
And I'm Elizabeth.
And you can find us on social media on our declining Twitter at Fancounters Live. We're also on Facebook if you want to look for Sharpie Nation. And Elizabeth, you can contact us a different way.
You can always email us at hello@fancounters.com.
Yeah, that's what you're authorized to do.
Yeah, that's the only thing I'm authorized to say.
So I'm in the middle of my end of year show busy season.
Yes, you are in recital hell.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I wanted to talk about today was actually, people always are like, why are kids so out of control? Why is that kid like that? Why is he saying the things that he's saying or she's saying, right?
Yeah.
I'm figuring out that the amount of pop culture being thrown at these kids is out of control a little bit. And I'm specifically now first going to talk about music. The amount of songs out there that we are having, and I don't rant on this show very often. You know that, right?
Yes.
But I'm so disturbed by what I've seen watching kids dance to inappropriate songs. And also the amount of songs where they have to put in a slur or a
bleep?
Sound, not a bleep, but you know how they through a swear word or an inappropriate thing. I mean, it's like every other song.
Oh my gosh.
They were taking stuff out of. And I'm like, first of all, why are you picking songs where you have to do that? And second of all, why are we releasing and making all of these songs? And the music is coming from an industry that, really promotes equality and acceptance of everything and everybody, which is great. But the songs and the music are not portraying that.
Right.
And they're not portraying a healthy, friendly atmosphere for families.
I listened to my kids sing in the shower last night. Both of them were in the shower last night. And Lily was singing completely inappropriate words. And I don't think she even realizes it because she's just singing at the top of her...
A song from the radio.
Right, exactly, that she gets off of her iPod.
Now tell me this. Do you think 8 and 9-year-old girls should be dancing to Tell Me What You Want, What You Really, Really Want?
No. I understand that the beat's got some nice things to it, but as you know, we are huge Wave supporters, and at halftime during the Wave games, there's always
this is a soccer team that she's talking
there's
about.
Always some dance troupe that comes, and some of the moves that these girls make, I feel like I have to cover my 13-year-old's eyes.
Yeah,
and these sometimes are probably like 9, 10, 11-year-old kids that are doing these moves. Twerking and other things that should not be coming out of these tiny little bodies. And I'm always amazed at these. I mean, you're in a giant venue full of a family event, and that's what you're doing. And it happens almost every halftime.
Now, as a parent, if your child was to dance to that Spice Girls song, would you say something?
Probably not, because for the most part, I know for like Lily, I don't always know the song she's dancing to.
That was where I was going with that. And I thought, well, why aren't the parents stepping up and being like, this is kind of inappropriate. Why don't we pick something else? And, now my kids' show is coming up. I don't know what songs they're dancing to.
Right.
I have no idea. And I thought, oh, my gosh, I really should ask.
Right.
Because what if
it's a little late now? We've been practicing and here comes the show, dude. It's a little late now. But yeah, I do feel that there's a lot of inappropriate dancing and inappropriate song choices for some pretty young kids. I even feel that at the high school level when I see some of those pom-pom routines.
Yeah.
That I'm like, okay, no, you should not be doing that.
I just don't know why we allow that. Why we allow it to be accepted. Why we even teach the moves in the first place.
I think a lot of it is that this society has gotten very jaded. And I listened to an 80-year-old the other day tell me that we were brainwashed because we were all about equality. But this is also a man who had dinner at my house a couple weeks ago and was surprised that Mark allows me to do as many things as he allows me to do.
Wait, you said 8-year-old or 80?
80.
Oh,
80.
It sounded like 8-year-old.
No, an
so
80-year-old man
qualify that.
who was having dinner with us that was something like, well, you should be very thankful he allows you to do. And I was like, what? I shot him a look like, dude, this is the last time you're having dinner. But he kind of said it with a twinkle in his eye, so I wasn't sure if he was kidding. But then a second conversation, he said that you guys are all brainwashed to think that this, all this stuff going on in the society is okay. But he's right. I mean, my children believe what they're told to believe. And my kids believe whatever the social media is putting out. I mean, my son, again, remembering that Oliver does have some autism, Oliver can no longer even discern what's happening in role-playing games, like if they're real or not real, because he's exposed to so much stuff that just he shouldn't see as a 13-year-old.
Now, I want to get into our interview for today, but I have one more comment. I went to see the movie Ma last night with Octavia Spencer.
Oh, yeah.
She is just one of my favorites ever.
That movie looks scarier than heck.
It's not scary, but it is a thriller.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Okay, well, anyway, before the movie played, a trailer showed, and it said in the very beginning that there was, I forgot how it was mentioned, something about preteen sexual content or something like that. And I thought, what the heck is this movie going to be? And it's basically a story about 4, 10, 12-year-old boys finding romantic items and talking about them and using the F word a bunch of times and all this stuff. And I'm thinking the whole time as I'm watching this trailer with these kids doing the most inappropriate things and saying the inappropriate things, who is this movie for? Because the 10 and 12-year-olds are not going to be allowed to go to this movie. Why do adults want to watch kids act like this?
Right.
Who is this movie for?
Yeah, I'd be curious.
I
see
will
what
not
their
be
target
seeing
audience is. Well, obviously the target audience is the same target audience of Ma, because they run previews of things they think you would be interested in.
Possibly, but it was a very disturbing trailer, to be honest with you. I don't know how films like that get made. I'm certainly not going to support films like that get made because, I believe in the protection of children's innocence. And even having those actors say those lines and do those things and play with those items.
Like no parent went, really?
Yeah, where are the parents of those kids? It's disturbing to me. So I don't rant often on the show, but I was severely disturbed last night. And then, watching kids dance to the Spice Girls. Just not comfortable with that, guys.
Me neither.
Anyway, on the show today, we've got a great one for you. Former child actor, Justin Shenkarow is going to be here. And you might have seen him on the show Eerie, Indiana. He was one of the lead characters. He also spent 4 seasons on the show Picket Fences, did some cameo appearances on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Home Improvement, and Who's the Boss. And he's going to be here today to tell us about his experiences growing up as a child star. We're going to hear some of his fan encounters.
Nice.
And it's going to be a good hour.
All right.
So here we go.
Coming to you from nowhere near the entertainment capital of the world, this is Fancounters with Nick and Elizabeth on the PodFix network.
There was this mob of people, and they're screaming my name.
Crazy fans.
Stop following me. Don't come around my house. If you do, the cops are going to be at yours. If I'm having dinner with my wife, don't sit down at my table. Don't follow me into the bathroom. Can I take a picture? Oh, my God.
I think this guy wants to fight me. Ended up being a fan.
I'm the only one that's ever been on Sam Jackson and lived to tell about it.
Well, guess what? I have a big surprise for you.
That's why we call it Fancounters.
I don't think you're going to last on the air very long.
Justin Shenkarow, welcome to Fancounters. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be on the show.
Excellent. Now, we talked about this in our opening, but you have been a part of so many series, and I can't wait to get into hearing some of those stories that you've experienced as an actor and a voice actor. But first, I kind of want to start at the beginning. So correct me if I'm wrong, but commercials was your entry into the entertainment world. Is that correct?
That's right, Nick. So my first job was actually for Mattel, and I was doing a commercial where they put me in a flying harness, and I was flying around the entire soundstage for this commercial.
Fun.
And I was only 6.5 years old, so I was totally hooked, because what 6-year-old does not want to fly?
No kidding. And
yes.
Professionally and on camera where you can relive it over and over.
That's right. So between flying and having a craft service table where they provided free cookies, candy, and snacks, I was like, this is, I'm done. This is what I want to do every day.
I don't need to go to school.
Right. I'm so into this job.
Yeah.
I'm in, man.
Exactly.
Now, how did your dad get you the audition? Like, how did you first get in?
Well, actually, my parents had a little French bakery in a small town in Los Angeles called Palos Verdes, which is by the coast. And so customers used to come in all the time and tell them that your son is super cute, because I had this real curly blonde hair. And they kept telling him, oh, you should get him an agent. He can be on TV. And I think they were sick and tired of hearing the customers tell them that. So finally, some friend of theirs knew an agent in L.A. and they brought me up, and I started auditioning right off the bat, and that was the first job I got. I don't recall the actual audition process, but I think there was ice cream and candy and involved after I got the job, so that made me very happy.
Okay, but now all I hear is let's entice these little kids with candy and ice cream. Like in my head,
that's pretty much what it is. That's exactly what it is, Elizabeth. We're like little trained dogs.
Same thing though. My kids had a doctor appointment, annual checkup, and I said, if you listen to the doctor and do what you say, we're going to 7-Eleven for a slushie, and we did.
Oh my God!
There you go.
Listen,
exactly.
Oh my God, we've Pavlov dog all these kids. All right,
that's it.
So after doing commercials, you started appearing on many of our favorite 90s sitcoms like The Fresh Prince, Who's the Boss, and Home Improvement. We love hearing behind-the-scenes stories or learning the kind of unknown things that we don't know about the other actors on the show that we love so much. So do you have any great golden nuggets or stories that you can share with us about those filming experiences?
Sure. I mean, absolutely. A couple that come to mind, when I did the episode of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, it was the Christmas episode. And somebody actually recently sent me my clip, which was so funny. You know, with YouTube, you can just dig up the past, which is fun. And my line was, "We can see your Christmas lights from the freeway." It was pretty funny. So I knocked on their door, and I remember working on it with Will Smith, who at the time, you know, wasn't obviously a superstar. I mean, he was a bit of a star because he was the star of that TV show, but nobody really else knew who he was. I mean, he's nothing like he is now, which is like an A-list star. The big exciting thing for me of doing that episode was meeting Evander Holyfield. Ooh. Because Evander Holyfield was the heavyweight champion of the world. He had just won a couple weeks prior to that shoot, and he showed up to set in a full black leather suit, black leather pants, black leather shirt, and black leather jacket, and he was super nice, and I thought, wow, this is so cool. So my highlight of that show was not meeting Will Smith, but it was meeting Evander Holyfield.
Cool.
And then, yeah, that was fun. And then the episode of Who's the Boss, I was in with, of course, you know, the main actors who were so great, but my highlight for that was meeting Tommy Lasorda. Tommy Lasorda was the manager for the Dodgers at the time when we shot that episode. And of course, I grew up on the Dodgers, and the Dodgers had just won the World Series with Kirk Gibson's, walk-off home run, which is just iconic now. And Tommy was the manager, and it was a baseball episode because Tony on the show, I think, was an ex-professional baseball player. So it was just a highlight to meet Tommy Lasorda. I was like such a hero. He was my hero. So funny enough, those two episodes, it wasn't like the main stars I was excited to meet. It was the other guest stars.
Nice.
What's funny about that, though, is at 8 years old, it tells where your mind was. You were still into baseball and not girls, because who didn't have a crush on Alyssa Milano?
Right.
I thought you were going to say, I couldn't wait to meet her.
Okay, but you want to hear another funny story about Who's the Boss? So I'm in the callback. So when you audition for a TV show as a guest star, like when you're doing one episode, you have one audition where you typically go meet the casting director, and then if they like you, then they refer you and you go for the callback, which is where you meet the director and the producers. And I was getting ready to go in for my audition for the callback, and this really cute girl went in before me, and I told my mom, I'm like, wow, I really want to get this job so I have the opportunity to work with her. And she came out of her audition, and she told her mom, she was sitting next to me, she's like, I totally got that. The producers love me. And I told my mom, I'm like, I'm going to get this for sure. And again, I ended up getting the job so I could work with her. I wasn't interested in Alyssa Milano. I think maybe she was too old for me. But this girl, Christy, I had the huge crush on.
Did she become anything after that?
No, it was just a week of eating cookies and candy at the craft service table and talking, but I didn't have much game as an 8-year-old.
No, probably not. So, Justin, one of the things that every time I go to Hollywood and I go to a TV taping, and for me, I don't know, there's just this like aha moment when I walk into a soundstage of a show that I've been watching forever, and you actually had to work on those sets. So wasn't it very surreal to kind of just be on something that you had seen on TV? I mean, did you have that kind of moment where you're like, oh my God, I am here?
I had that moment when I worked on Home Improvement because I had been such a huge fan of that show, and actually knew a couple of the kids that were on the show, but I'd never been to the set. And so when I walked on that set for the first time, it was pretty cool. I got goosebumps, and I was like, wow, I get to work on this show this week, which was very fun. And especially for that show, because it was a live audience. So you really got the whole vibe of the audience, which got you pumped and excited when you did the live taping show. But just being there and seeing those sets, like the kitchen and the living room, it was pretty surreal and cool.
I still am in awe when I go to a new show taping.
Huh.
Yeah.
Just one of those things.
It's fun.
Shortly after those single episode appearances, you booked a show that had quite a cult following, which was Eerie, Indiana. So how did the role of Simon Holmes come to be yours, and how did being on that show as one of the stars enhance your acting career?
That's an awesome question. Well, that was actually quite a process to get that job. So that was my first quote-unquote series regular, where your series regular is when you're on a show every single week, and it's quite tough to get those jobs because they're very coveted. Everybody wants to be on a show every week. So I had 12 auditions just to get to what they call network. So network is when you go, so that show was on NBC. So network is the final call when you go to the actual network and you meet the entire, a group of executives that are going to decide your fate. So I had gone to, prior to that, the casting director, producers again, director again. And then you go and you meet, more producers. And then you go and you meet what's called the money, they call them the money people, which is the production company. So at that time, the production company behind Eerie was Hearst Entertainment, meaning they're the ones that are going to put the money in, and then NBC is the network. They're going to distribute the TV show. So I'm at network. It's between, I think, usually it's like you and another person at network, or maybe two other actors. So it's like three actors that are at that final callback. I went in for that final callback, and I felt really great, and I thought, okay, cool, I got this. And I was 11 when I did it. And I get a call from my agent 2 days later, and they're like, you were good, but they're not sure if you're the right direction for the show, so they're going to actually start seeing people again.
Oh my gosh.
What? Yeah. So I literally thought, well, great. I went through, 3 weeks of auditions, 12 callbacks, and I did not get the job. And they literally started at ground zero. They did auditions for a whole nother month of meeting new actors that could play the part of Simon. And then about a month later, my agent called and said, well, they want you to come back to network. They've found a couple other actors they like, but they also want you to come back in and re-audition at that final callback. And I was like, okay. And I went in and, the rest is history. I got the job, but it was a very stressful experience. And but it was life-changing because it was worth, sometimes you have to walk through the fire and then you get to the other side, and it was so worth it. I remember the first pilot when we did the Tupperware episode. It was Joe Dante who directed that episode. He was a pretty famous director. He had directed Gremlins and was a big film director. And it was just a special experience of working on that show right away, right that first episode. It felt like a family. The executive producers, Jose Rivera and Carl Schaefer, who I'm still close with both of them, they were pretty young at the time to be like the creators of the show. I think they were in their early to mid 30s,
Wow.
which is pretty young to be running a show. And they just set an incredible tone and energy and just a lot of love, and everybody came together. And then the pilot ended up getting picked up, which is like a huge coup because so many shows are shot as pilots every year, and very few of them actually get picked up to series. And then when we shot the series, it was amazing. It was my favorite show that I've ever worked on. And I've worked on a lot of shows. I think because, I was 11, 12 years old, and it was all about the kids on that show.
Mm-hmm.
The other cast member, Omri, and myself, and we had a tree fort where we hid secret clues, and we'd come to set and there'd be smoke everywhere because we were always investigating these weird things that happen in the town, and it was so much fun. It was just, I was like a kid in a playground getting to act in a setting that was very weird and odd but fun and like a kid's playground. Just an incredible experience.
Were you on a back lot to film that, or were you filming it
Yes.
on location somewhere?
Yeah, we shot that at CBS Radford Studios, which is in Studio City. And at CBS Radford, they actually had a whole street, which they still do, of, the exterior of homes. So all you see are sort of the exterior facade of the home, and then you open up the door, and of course there's nothing inside, which is weird. So that street, that was our, the exterior of my house, the exterior of Omri's house, or he played Marshall. And then for the interiors, we shot right at CBS Radford on the studio in a big soundstage. And I remember we were right next door. Evening Shade was shooting on one side of us, which was a big show with Burt Reynolds and Lonnie Anderson at the time.
I remember.
And on the other side was Dinosaurs. I don't know if you ever remember that show.
I do.
It was a
Yes,
super
we
show.
do.
We do.
Not the baby.
Did you run into the dinosaurs, or
right.
did you visit the set?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they
You-
were right next door. I mean,
Yeah.
they were like our neighbors. So we used to, go over there because, especially as a kid, it was so cool. They were all in costume. And they were just like a really, really nice set like ours.
Yeah, my family still walks around going, not the mama, not the mama.
Not the mama. Not the mama.
Right. So, but I have a question because I am not as Hollywood as Nick is. So, you're filming a show for NBC. Why are
Yeah.
you over at CBS's stages?
Because
Contracts.
that's a great question. So they all sort of work together sometimes, and they also work independently. So some of CBS shows shoot at the CBS Radford lot, some NBC, ABC. It really depends because at the lot itself, they're looking to fill those stages, and so a lot of it comes down to money. And it's like NBC had this show, Eerie, Indiana, but the production company was Hearst Entertainment. So Hearst Entertainment is the people that are putting the money into the show, and they were probably searching for a studio that could work as the house, which would have our back lot, our backlot house, which was the facade, and that had a soundstage available.
Okay.
So a lot of the sort of studios in LA, you've got Disney and Paramount and 20th Century Fox and CBS Radford and Raleigh Studios. You don't have that many studios in LA, and so you have to really hunt to find a soundstage that's available, right? Because there's so much shooting that's going on all the time. So they trade, they work with each other, and then it comes down to negotiation. What's available and how much are they willing to spend?
Well, that's nice
Yeah.
information because I would have thought that only NBC would have shot only on the NBC studio lot.
Right. So like when we did Picket Fences, which was the show I did after Eerie, Indiana, we shot at 20th Century Fox, which you would think, and so that doesn't make much sense either because CBS was behind Picket Fences, and yet we're at the Fox lot. So,
Okay.
so that it just happens all the time where you're working on a certain network show, but you happen to be at a studio that's sort of behind a different network.
As we go through the show today, we want you to highlight some of the best or weirdest fan encounters that you've had throughout your career. It's kind of our hook on what we do here.
Okay.
I also love hearing about how those encounters have changed over time, because I know you've done some Comic-Con stuff, which we'll get into in a little bit. But
Yeah.
back in the 90s, when you're on Eerie, Indiana, Picket Fences, fan mail was a big thing back then. It wasn't so much, Twitter and social media and all that. People were actually writing into you, I'm assuming. So did any fan mail ever catch your attention?
Yeah, there was some interesting fan mail, which I have to say, I'm so happy that when I was, 12, 13, 14, 15 years old, there wasn't any Instagram or Twitter, any social media or email, because I think it'd be super hard to have to deal with that as a kid actor. I got fan mail the old-fashioned way, which was just mail, which was great because people actually spent the time to write you a letter and send you some hearts or some Hershey's Kisses. It was really cute. And I remember being on Eerie, and I got a pretty decent amount of fan mail, which was very nice. And this one girl with her, said she was a big fan of mine, and she was coming into town from Indiana. And the show sort of took place in Eerie, Indiana.
Right.
And she was going to be with her mom in Los Angeles, and it would just be her dream to come and meet me and come see where we shot. And I was still a kid, so I read it, my mom read it, and we talked to the producers, and we thought, it'd be really, really nice to see if she could, come meet us all. And so we connected with her, and she came with her mom to the lot. I remember we had lunch with her at the commissary, which the commissary is like, where everybody eats lunch. And we took her around the set and, introduced her to some of the other actors. and it was amazing. She was so enthralled, and it was really, it was fun, a fun experience from my point of view, just to be able to meet her and show her around. And I mean, I was like 11 years old, so that was like a cute, fun encounter. And then when I was on Picket Fences, I remember I would get fan mail, and this one girl would write all the time, and she was just very sweet. And she was like, "I'm a big fan of the show. I'm a big fan of yours." And I was like, "Oh, that's nice." And then I was on, because I was going to regular school at the same time that I was also going to school on the set. So on Picket Fences, it was like we had it called it was an hour show. So we had a 7-day shoot, meaning we'd shoot from Monday to Friday, and then we'd shoot the last 2 days of the following week. So Monday, Tuesday, and then the new show would start like Wednesday. So we go Wednesday to Wednesday, and then, Thursday, Friday, and the new show would start Monday. And on an hour show, you only have to be on set the days that you're working. So on that show, I'd maybe work 2 or 3 days out of the 7-day shoot, and the rest of the days I'd be in regular school. And so when I was in regular school, we had a trip where we were going to Washington, D.C., like a school trip with our class. So we went out to Washington, D.C., and we were all, at that time, big fans of Melrose Place and Beverly Hills 90210.
Yep.
Those were like the two hot shows in the mid-'90s. And we're at this hotel, and there's a bunch of us. We're like sitting sort of in the lobby watching Beverly Hills 90210. And I hear this girl scream. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, what happened?" I thought something happened. And I guess she realized that I was there, and she told all of her friends, and they started chasing me.
Oh no!
They started chasing me all around the hotel. And literally, we're running around the hotel for like a half an hour. And finally, I remember where my room is, and I go to my room, and I like lock the door, and they're banging on the door. "Open up, open up, open up." And that was a bit of a crazy encounter.
Holy cow.
Wow.
Yeah. Although I'm not quite sure, looking back, like why I ran. I mean, if a bunch of girls are chasing you, it's not like the worst experience. But for some reason, I was a bit terrified.
I think you'd be more scared now as a teenager with a bunch of people chasing you than you would back then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, now it'd be a frightening thing. I think I was more upset that I missed the episode of Beverly Hills 90210
Right,
than anything
exactly.
Or in the middle of something. So, in the early 90s, there was also a short-lived sequel to Eerie, Indiana, tagged The Other Dimension. Were you contacted to do that part at all,
Obviously
or asked
Oh,
or asked
God,
to do a
no,
cameo?
That was terrible.
Okay.
That was horrific, that show. That's why that was canceled immediately. I mean, our show only lasted a year, but the reason our show only lasted a year was really politics at NBC. And at the time, a new president of NBC came in. Well, I mean, there was a number of reasons why we only went one season. One was they gave us a terrible time slot against 60 Minutes. At the time, 60 Minutes was the top-rated show on TV. And so we were up right against 60 Minutes. We had a very bad lead-in, and the lead-in is the show that comes in right before you. Mm-hmm. And you want a lead-in that's a successful show so they can help boost your ratings. We had a bad lead-in that was a bad show and got crappy ratings. And we were against 60 Minutes. And then the show didn't do very well in the ratings because it was trying to find its audience. Critics loved the show. They we were written up all the time as a brilliant show and so well done. But the audience was still finding the show. And at the end of the season, a new president came in to run the network. And usually when that happens, they will scrap a lot of the shows and bring on their own shows. It happens sort of in any kind of transitional leadership role. They want to bring on their own stuff so they can get credit for their own shows, and they sort of want to get rid of some of the other stuff. So that's what happened to the show. It was unfortunate. Then in 98, the show got picked up by Fox Kids, and it became the number one show on Saturday mornings on Fox Kids. So then the network was like, or I think maybe it was First Entertainment, realized, wow, we can make money on this show and we got to reboot it. And so they rebooted it in Canada with really bad writing and bad acting. And it was just, the show wasn't good at all. No, I wasn't contacted regarding the show. I think the creators were because they still own the rights to it. So I think they made some money, which is good for them. But the show wasn't good and it got canned pretty quickly. I mean, it was nothing like the original show.
You did mention Picket Fences, and briefly, I just wanted to ask you about the difference between starring on a show, because you even said day one of Eerie, Indiana, it was like a family. So having spent a year on that show versus the 4 years on Picket Fences, How do you equate those two experiences together as to, what they meant to you and working with that cast for so long?
Well, I was very fortunate. Picket Fences was like another family. It was an incredible experience working with a lot more actors that were tremendously seasoned. I played Tom Skerritt and Kathy Baker's son, who are both brilliant actors, and I worked with Don Cheadle and all sorts of wonderful actors that would come in, Fivish Finkel and Ray Walston, and a lot of brilliant guest stars. So that was very much a family because Tom and Kathy set the tone. A lot of when you're on a set, especially for an extended period of time, the main stars will set the tone for how the show is run. Meaning, if they're cold and not nice people, then the whole set feels that energy, and it's just sort of everybody's not in the best mood. But Tom was a guy who would walk on set every morning and hug everybody on the set. It didn't matter whether it was the wardrobe person or the crew member or the lighting tech or the actor or the director. Everybody was treated the same. And, he just was a very warm, loving guy. Kathy, the same. Kathy is like a second mother to me, and she just has an incredible motherly kind of vibe where she just wants to take care of everybody, and she's just such a loving, wonderful person. In fact, I just had dinner with her last week. And so they set the tone. Everybody takes their cue from them, so it was an incredible set. Very much a family. We still, a lot of us are in contact and see each other and, talk about how much we loved working on that show. Funny enough, the audition process was totally different from Eerie, Indiana. David Kelly, who created Picket Fences, had seen my work on Eerie and wanted me to come in because he thought I could be right for the role. Mm-hmm. And so I went in to meet with him and a couple of the other producers, just one audition, and then I went right to network, to CBS, and I got the job, which was great.
That was fast.
So literally I went from 12 auditions from the previous show, plus having to go back to 2 auditions for Picket Fences.
Nice. Wow.
That's how crazy the business is. And some people don't even audition at all. It's just, that's the nature of the business. It's always, it depends on who you are, where you are, and, how much they want you for the part.
After 4 years of acting on screen, you started a voice acting career. And you became the voice of Harold on the popular animated series Hey Arnold. So was it hard to make the switch from a camera to a recording studio?
I was actually... No, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. No, I was just wondering, do you act differently? Do you do things different?
Right. So I had actually been doing voiceover work for many, many years. I think I started doing voiceover work maybe when I was about 8 or 9 years old for different stuff on Disney. So when I got Harold on Hey Arnold, I'd been doing animation and voiceovers for probably 7 or 8 years already by that point. So I was very familiar with how to do it. In terms of the difference, there's a lot of people oftentimes will say, well, I have a good voice. They'll come up to me, I have a good voice. I'd like to do voiceover work, or it's so great. I've heard it's such a great job, and it's easy money. I've been told I have such a great voice. What they're missing is that it's called voiceover actor. An actor is the most important component of doing voiceover work.
Right.
It means that you have to really know how to act, and you have to be a fantastic actor because you have to put the same kind of emotions and feeling into the character as you would as if you were on set on camera, and sometimes you have to do even more because they're not seeing your face. So that's a big misconception that people don't realize, that the actor component is a big part of doing voiceover work. You have to be an excellent actor to be a successful voiceover actor. And so when I did Harold, it was so fun. I mean, I'm still very close with the original creator, Craig, and all the actors, and we just had a blast. Playing Harold was so fun because we got to improvise. The writer creator gave us leadway in terms of how much we could bring to the character and to the part. And I mean, the lines were hilarious, and we just sort of would improvise and create more fun stuff. And you have to bring, as I said, enthusiasm and energy to the part, but also the subtleties of, what the character's thinking and what's going on behind the scenes, and all those kind of aspects are really important for doing voiceovers.
It's important to mention, and I don't know if Elizabeth knows this or not, but you are the only character on Hey Arnold to be the same voice throughout the run of the series. Is that right?
Well, that is not entirely true. There was Franny, who played Helga, was the original voice, and Jamil, my buddy Jamil, who played Gerald, was also the original voice. But it was, so the three of us were the only original characters. I think there were like 5 or 6 Arnolds, and there were a lot of other actors that got swapped out because as soon as a kid's voice would change, because we were all kids, they would recast them with a new actor. And they actually, I think, try to do that to me, but I was so original with what I created with Harold that fortunately I was able to keep my part.
So how old are you at this point? When you're doing Hey Arnold, how old are you when you start?
I think when I started, I was 13, and I finished it when I was like 19.
Okay.
19 or 20. Yeah. So I was actually in college doing it from up in the Bay Area. I would go into a recording studio, and I would still do Harold for Hey Arnold, which was a blast. And for that show, it was unique because we did a lot of table reads. Nowadays, mostly when you do voiceover work, even for animation, you go into a small booth and you just record your own lines, and you don't have any of the other actors present. You just work with the director. And for that show, Craig, who wrote it, wanted us to really sort of create the atmosphere and the vibe and the feeling that he was going for in the script. And he felt, which I agree with, that all the actors being present and reading the script top to bottom enhanced the performance. And I think that made a tremendous impact.
You know, Nick and I have had that conversation because we've spoken to other podcast people who are not in the same room with each other. And they say, they say it's really hard because you're kind of, I mean, obviously in the editing booth, we can edit over if you step on somebody else's line or things like that. But when Nick and I record, we are next to each other and we know who's going to talk. And, we do a lot of arm tapping like me or you or things like that. But we've talked to some other podcasters who aren't even in the same room. Like they can see each other through like booths. But I don't understand how you're supposed to get a good show.
If good rapport.
Yeah, if you don't have somebody to talk after or against or off of.
We do it off the director.
1,000%.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. What's that, Nick?
Because you said you do the lines with the director, but that's much different than being with the actual actor with their voice inflections.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, it's great. I mean, I agree with you. I think that being able to have that camaraderie and sort of improvise with your co-host as a podcaster being present or being in the room as a voiceover actor with the other actors makes a big impact, and you can feel it. But I would say 90% of that it's not done that way in the voiceover world now. It's primarily you in the booth reading with the director, and the audition process is even more difficult because when you go to your agency to audition for, let's say, a new animated show or a video game, you are just reading the lines and you don't have anybody else to play opposite you. Like you just read your line, then there's, the other character line in between your line, and you just sort of have to say that in your head just to become sort of familiar with it so that you can respond, and then you go on to your next line. It's hard. It's not easy. So that's where the acting component of being a voiceover actor is imperative.
Yeah, that does sound much harder than you think it is.
It is. I mean, it's fun. It's wonderful, but it's not easy. Just like, nothing is easy.
Yeah, you mentioned voices changing and being replaced and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But Hey Arnold, the Jungle movie, which I'm guilty, I didn't see it, but it was released 10 years after the series finished. So did any of the original Arnolds come back? Because you came back as Harold, but obviously now you're 10 years older than 19, so you're in your late 20s. Did Harold have a different sound?
Well, I was very nervous because I had to go in and re-audition at Nickelodeon. They made everybody come back in. And I think I was the only one, and Franny, who played Helga. Okay. We both were recast again to play our original characters. And I just had to work on the voice for a while. The good thing was when I made Harold up, the voice, initially, I lowered my voice because he was a bully and I wanted to make him tougher than I was at that point because I was only 13. And so I used the lower register of my voice. So when it came, as the show developed, and even 10 years down the road, when we came back to do the Jungle movie, my voice wasn't that different because fortunately I had lowered my voice initially. So I could definitely still do the character. But most of the other actors obviously had been using their original voice, and so it had changed a lot. So they came in. Craig brought a lot of the original people back to do small parts in the movie, like as side characters.
Okay.
But most of the other, like the series regular original characters, were recast with new young kids that were very talented as well.
What show from 10 years back or more would you like to see brought back? We got a lot of rebooting going on right now.
No kidding. I'd like to see both the shows that I worked on heavily brought back. Eerie, Indiana, and Picket Fences. I went in to pitch Lionsgate. So Lionsgate owns the rights to Eerie, Indiana, and I went in to pitch them about 2 years ago, along with Carl Schaefer, who's one of the original creators, for rebooting Eerie, because we actually think it's a fantastic time to bring the show back. Eerie was pre-Twin Peaks and pre-X-Files, which both of those shows have been rebooted. And it's just, it was an incredible show at the time. And I think today you could actually make it even darker and a bit scarier because, we're more aware of things that are happening in the world, and apocalyptic things have transpired. And then you got Walking Dead, you got all sorts of stuff. So the show could go in so many different directions, and it has a big cult following, an incredible fan base, the people that really love the show, and some of them are discovering it for the first time now that it's on Amazon Prime, or that they got the DVDs maybe off eBay. But I would really, really love to bring Eerie back and reboot my character as Simon, but as an adult. And I have a interesting concept for how the show could go that I think would be pretty amazing. Picket Fences also would be wonderful to reboot that show. Not sure if it's as feasible because there's so many actors that were involved, and everybody sort of has gone off to do their own thing, but that would be great to do. But Eerie for sure. Bring back Eerie, Indiana. There's actually a petition online that some fans have set up, so we're hoping to get a certain amount of fans and bring that to Lionsgate and try and push to bring the show on, whether it be on Netflix or Fox or Amazon. Find the right home for it and bring the show back.
Okay, besides shows that you were on.
She's going to keep digging here.
Like, what shows did you like to watch as a kid that you think should be rebooted? Or what shows do you think should be rebooted?
Well, I mean, at that time when I was chased by that fan, Beverly Hills 90210, and guess what? They're rebooting it. So, a lot of the shows that I watched as a kid, Full House, I watched that.
Yeah, they've already come back.
We rebooted
they brought
that.
it back. I mean, literally every show in the world has been brought back, I feel like. Every 90s show except the 2 shows that I worked on. So right now I'm focusing only on those shows. In terms of, other shows that I loved growing up as a kid, I love Full House. I love Beverly Hills 90210. Maybe if they brought back Melrose Place, I'm not even sure. Maybe that was already brought back. Some of these shows are brought back for like a season and canceled. Yeah. But that'd be fun to see Melrose Place again.
I want to see Step by Step with Patrick Duffy and Suzanne Summers brought back.
Step by Step, yes. I love Step by Step as a kid. What else was part of TGIF?
Perfect
House,
Strangers.
Step by Step.
Yeah, I loved
Family Matters.
Yeah, Perfect Strangers.
Family Matters was fantastic with Urkel. Yes, that'd be great to bring back.
I don't think Jaleel will ever do that character again.
Yeah, I don't think so. He's sort of done with it, and he's had a great career, so good for him. But that'd be fun to see Matters back. That was a wonderful show. I loved that as a kid. Yeah. What else? What else was part of TGIF?
Well, Perfect Strangers. That's the Balky.
Perfect Strangers.
That one also has a line that my family uses a lot, which is "boochie, boochie, boochie." It was kind of like their cooties or tag that they did back and forth that you just didn't know who had the boochie. My family still does that too. We're a little bit in the past there. 50 years later.
Much better.
Well, and heck, you mentioned it before.
It'd be great.
They might as well bring back dinosaurs then as well.
Oh, yeah.
Because my kids would love that.
Yes.
Yeah, your kids would
Dinosaurs
love
also has a total cult following. I run into people all the time that love that show. It was great. I mean, you're right. There's a lot more shows to bring back, but Eerie, Indiana should be number 1 on the bring back list.
We'll work on that for you.
So you're involved in a lot of shows. You mentioned massive fan followings already. It's allowed you to participate in big events like Comic-Con. Now, I know you've been a panelist there, right?
Yes.
Thank goodness my research doesn't fail me this time.
Yes.
So have you gone as a spectator and as a panelist, or just a panelist?
I've just gone as a panelist, which has been a lot of fun. Engaging with the fans there and talking about the shows that I've worked on, meeting them one-on-one is always a real thrill because fans are just incredible. I mean, they love your work and they tell you what they love about it. I mean, who doesn't want to hear that? It's a really, really nice feeling. And this is a great place where you can actually meet a lot of them in one place. I haven't been as a spectator. I should go, but they don't really have them typically close to where I live. They're a bit far away. So, I'm not necessarily going to fly to where they are or go stay for a weekend. I think it'd be fun just to sort of go for maybe a half day. So if there were more of the bigger cons close to me, I probably would go as a spectator. But until they start putting them near me, which they probably will soon because they seem to be all over the place,
they do.
I'll probably continue to go as a panelist.
Well, are you in L.A.?
Yes, I'm in L.A.
Okay. Well, San Diego's not that far.
No, but I mean, San Diego's 3 hours.
Oh, is it 3? Oh, I thought it was only 90 minutes. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And then I forget about traffic,
San Diego's like
too.
3 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can take the train, which is what I've done when I've been a panelist at Comic-Con in San Diego. But but then they put you up for the weekend. So just to go like as a half day as a spectator would be a bit of a schlep.
That would be a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
So let's go back to talking about voice actors because I have another question. So do you think that the industry has changed since you started this? I mean, you talked about the table read versus now we go in kind of cold. But what other changes do you think have happened in the voice actor world?
Sure, yeah. I mean, there's been a lot of celebrities that have taken over the voiceover jobs in the last 5 to 10 years, which has been unfortunate from my point of view. I mean, they're talented, obviously. I mean, they don't become A-list celebrities for nothing. I mean, they're very talented actors. But I do think that it's a bit of a shame because there's so many very talented voiceover actors that make their living doing animated shows or animated films or voiceovers in general, and a lot of them have been cut out. I have a lot of voiceover actor friends who, have had to leave the business and get into something else just because there's not that much work. It seems like there'd be a lot of work, but the high-paying jobs are the ones that sort of help you sustain your life, or if you have a family so you can afford to live with your spouse and your kids in L.A., which is a very expensive city, all those jobs primarily go to celebrities. For example, like if you listen to like the Lincoln ads, Matthew McConaughey does the voice, or if you listen to the Honda commercial ads, Fred Savage does the voice, or obviously if you watch animated films, you see it's like every A-list actor in the world. I mean, I don't see what the point of that is for kids. I don't think kids really care when they're going to see a movie who the actor is. They want to see the best people for the parts. But I understand from a business point of view that the studio and the network wants to be able to market their movie, and they find it that it's easier to market the movie with a big A-list talent or a roster of A-list talent that they can push out to people. But from my point of view as a voiceover actor, it's sucky. It's not, because we lose out a lot of jobs to celebrities.
Do you know of any instances where a film or project used a well-known actor that had a bad result?
I've heard stories of, I did a table read for a big animated movie a couple years ago. It was a big movie, and the director wanted me, but I'm not a huge name, and the studio ended up casting a big A-list actor, and I'd heard that they were not that happy with the actor, but he's an A-list actor. The movie came out, it did not do very well, but it doesn't really matter. It doesn't impact his career. So I don't know other examples. That just happens to be one that I was involved in. I think a lot of the animated films do quite well because they have such a big marketing budget, and
For sure.
and they're also great movies. They're well written, they're beautifully animated. So and a lot of the celebrity voiceover actors are very good. I'm not saying they're not good. They're talented. It's just a bit of a shame where in the 90s when I was doing a lot of my on-camera acting, there was in the business, you wanted to be mysterious. So you didn't want, first of all, you didn't really want fans or other people to know your business in life. You wanted to be known as an actor that could do all sorts of different roles. Obviously there was no social media or internet at the time. But you did not want to be going out and talking about your personal life extensively because you wanted people to sort of think of you as an actor that could play anything. So that's a big difference there. The second big difference is when, as an actor, once you achieved a certain status, meaning that you were on a series regular on a TV show like I was, you wouldn't go back down and do commercials or do guest appearances on shows, because that was sort of, a couple steps below. If you were a film actor, you would never do television. There was a big difference between film actors and television actors. Film actors were sort of pretty snooty at the time, and they thought once they achieved success as a film actor, they would not go down and do TV. And so there was a stratosphere. So as an actor, when you worked your way up, you achieved a certain success, you stayed at that level, which was good. But the flip side is now actors do everything. Right. So once you achieve a level of success as a movie actor or as a TV actor, you do everything possible. You do voiceover work, you do commercials, you do guest appearances, even if you're a movie star. Which is, if you're at that level, that's great for you, but it becomes more difficult for other actors that are trying to move up, because, obviously as the producers want to cast these big names, and so it's harder for people to sort of break through those ranks, if that makes sense.
I'm also noticing a lot of singers that are doing a lot of voice acting work, like Kelly Clarkson in the new Ugly Dolls and Justin Timberlake and Trolls, because they want those people to do the music for the movie. And so as a side
bonus.
note, you get to have this song, because the song Kelly Clarkson has on the radio right now is from Ugly Dolls. It's that new animated movie.
Right, sure.
And,
that's another thing. I mean, Kelly Clarkson and Timberlake are also huge stars. I mean, they're big names. So, they'd probably give them a part in the film. But the added bonus is, of course, they're doing the major song for the film as well. And if you go back to the 90s, let's say like Little Mermaid or Beauty and the Beast or some of those Disney films, they may have like a big star who did some of the songs, but that big star would not also be a voiceover actor in the film. That they would be separate. Now, the agents for, these big actors like Kelly Clarkson or Justin Timberlake, they negotiate and they're like, okay, well, you want the song, they'll do the song, but you also have to give them a big part in the film.
Right.
And that's the way it works.
Well, and I just recently was reading a People magazine article, and I'm sure it was very old because I read a lot of really old ones. But it was a evolution of the Disney princess, and it started with Ariel and the actress that played Ariel, and then the subsequent princesses. And as the princesses went on in time, the actresses got more and more famous.
Oh.
Like if you look like who played those actresses, they weren't like no name people anymore. Like Catherine O'Hara that did Belle wasn't Catherine O'Hara then. Do you know what I'm saying? It was she was like a no name, or she was not she was a Broadway star, but she wasn't
to be somebody.
Yeah, and now you go straight to Kristen Bell.
Yes,
and
Idina Menzel.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly. Yeah. Not to say that Catherine O'Hara and Kristen Bell aren't talented. They are. They're brilliant actresses. I mean, they're, Catherine O'Hara's hilarious, and Kristen Bell's a great actress. But I'm saying that that the other actresses that played Ariel and Belle, like in the 90s that you were mentioning, Broadway actress, also brilliantly talented, or maybe unknown to a lot of people, but still very talented.
Right.
There isn't necessarily a difference in the talent, but it's that now that actress wouldn't have the opportunity to play that role, because that role is now going to go to a celebrity. And that's the difference that we see a lot in the business from, an insider's point of view of working in the business. I don't know if you see it so much as from the fan side. I mean, of course you see, more celebrities, but from the inside the business, that's something that we sort of struggle with. But that's just the way it is. That's the way the business works.
Right.
Now, we talked about going up the ladder, not wanting to go back down and all of that, and I get that.
Sure.
But you've had an entertainment career since you were 6. So have you ever had to do anything else to make money? I mean, because at the end of the day, if you're not booking jobs, you got to still pay the bills. So have you had a second career during your run in this industry?
I haven't. I've been very fortunate where I've always been able to work as an actor. Primarily sort of keeping the lights on by doing voiceover work while I'm, pursuing on-camera jobs. So I've been very fortunate. I mean, I took a step away and I went to college and studied abroad and did all of that. But I've always really only been making a living as an actor and as a voiceover actor. So I've been,
That's great.
very fortunate in that sense.
Now, you've been a part of a lot of projects, so I kind of want to go rapid fire because we could spend all day talking to you, and you don't want to. So let's go rapid fire. I'm going to mention some of the projects you've been a part of, and maybe just hit me with a highlight of something that you remember from doing that project. So we talked to a couple actors in our 2-year run here that have mentioned that they've always wanted to get into these RPG role-playing games.
Right.
And you had the opportunity to do that. I spent hours playing L.A. Noire, and you had the role of a policeman in that game. So what comes to mind when you think of recording for that video game?
That was a really fun video game. There was a ton of big actors that were in that game. I just remember going into the booth, working with the director and the actors and reading the script and thinking, man, this is intense. Like, this is so well done. And I think that was sort of the beginning of when video games started having these huge budgets and feeling like almost like big films with incredible, special effects and writing and actors that they brought in. So yeah, for that specific role and that script, I think I was very grateful to be a part of it and realize, wow, these video games are pretty impressive.
They're getting better and better, that's for sure.
So you also did the voice of everyone's favorite underdog, Charlie Brown, in It's Spring Training, Charlie Brown. Tell us about that.
Yeah, playing Charlie Brown was great. I played Charlie Brown for 2 years. I think I got the job when I was actually in New York. Somehow I auditioned for it there and got the job and played Charlie for 2 years. And I think the highlight of that one was the commercial that I did where I said, "Get met. It pays." It was fun. The thing with Charlie Brown is that they would sort of give you 2-year runs as an actor. So as soon as your voice changed even slightly, you were out and a new Charlie was in.
Okay.
So Charlie Brown's had a lot of voices.
Tons of voices, yeah. Probably, I don't know how many, but I would say probably hundreds.
Back in high school, I loved the movie Scream. And you are credited as ADR Loop Group, which I have no idea what that is. So what did you do on Scream?
So ADR actually is, I do a lot of that. That's a big part of my voiceover career. So, like, let's say you're watching Scream, again, since, we're talking about that film. So in the classroom, right, you had, like, let's say Neve Campbell was sitting in the classroom and she was talking to one of her other friends who was also a big part of, a name actor in that film. All the other people that were sitting in that classroom were extras, meaning, they were sort of the background actors. And when the director would call action, those background actors have to pantomime talking. They can't speak because if they talk, they're going to be talking over the dialogue of Neve Campbell, and she's the star. So you can't mess up her sound. And sound is a really crucial thing in film and TV, and any distortion of it can cause a lot of problems. So the background actors pantomime talking, so they move their hands, they move their mouth, but no voice. So what I do with a small group of other actors, most of us come from like an improv background, so I did improv at the Groundlings and Upright Citizens Brigade for many years, is we go in when a film or a television's in post-production and it's been edited, and we're in a big sort of sound stage, and we put dialogue to all the people in the background. So like we'll play, like for that scene, for example, that I brought up, we'll play the kids, we'll do the voices of the kids in the background. But, I do stuff where I worked on CSI or Law and Order or, a plethora of other shows and films. And so the jargon that you use depends on the scene. So it might be, a doctor jargon or lawyer jargon or a Marvel comic or whatever it may be. So that's what ADR is. And I think that's what I did for Scream many years ago.
Very fun.
Okay, so in 2008, you were on TLC's Flip That House, and you flipped a house.
Right.
Okay, what's up with that? How did a kid actor go to be house flipping?
Well, that's a good question. It didn't go very well.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, it did not go very well. I got in way over my head, and it was way too much to chew, and I was not experienced at all. And I think most people that do home remodels or home renovations can understand that. Some people, obviously, these house flippers on HGTV, have an incredible talent. They're either builders or in construction or interior designers, and they have a whole crew, but I did not. And it was a lot more that I could do. It was supposed to be a 3-month flip, and it turned into like a year and a half that the house never ended up actually flipping because it was like too overwhelming.
Okay.
So did the show air, having not been flipped?
Yeah, the show did air. I think at the end of the episode, they were like, "Oh, he's in over his head, and we'll check back in 6 months to see how it went." But they never checked back in.
Right.
Yeah.
2010 brought a show called Millionaire Matchmaker. And were you the millionaire on the show, or were you looking for a millionaire?
No, I'm looking for a millionaire. No, I played the millionaire on the show, but I was cast as an actor to play that part.
Right.
And that was definitely not a highlight of my career. That was a mistake. I shouldn't have done it. A friend of mine was the casting director, and she ended up calling me and saying, "Hey, can you come audition for this thing?" And I ended up doing it. I had never seen the show before, and I didn't realize that people really think reality TV is real.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously it's not. But people have a misconception that it's very real and authentic, and it's completely the opposite. So, they wanted me to come back on that show because the episode that I was in happened to be a big success. And I said, well, if you double my rate, then I'll come on. Otherwise, forget it. So I never went back on.
You've done voice work with major motion pictures. So I'm assuming most of that voice work is that same ADR loop, like any of the major ones so you're not seeing those actors. You're coming in post-production after they've done their thing.
You got it, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so I know you sent that in the notes, but yeah, I'm not typically, the other actors are not coming in because part of the ADR as well is that you are revoicing some of those big actors, like let's say Brad Pitt, Leonardo DiCaprio, whoever it may be, who's the star of that film. A lot of times they may be shooting another film at the same time that this current film is in post-production, so they're unable to come in to revoice some of their lines.
Okay.
So I'll go in there as well because I can do a lot of those actors and, put voices to them. Not like huge paragraphs, but
sure.
a few lines.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm with
That's
you.
awesome.
Okay.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. You should see the smile on the
I'm
cat that
learning
just ate the
something here.
canary next to me.
That's funny. That's cute.
Wikipedia is sometimes my friend, sometimes it's not. It's burnt us a few times on the show, which the audience has never heard because I've taken it out because we don't want to be embarrassed. But it's really funny. Your wiki page says, after voicing the character of Harold in Hey Arnold for so long, Justin converted to Judaism. Does one have something to do with the other?
I saw that recently on Wikipedia. That I don't know who the heck came up with that, but no. I was born Jewish. I've been Jewish since I was born. So I don't know who the heck wrote that, but that's completely wrong. It's funny.
It was such an epiphany playing a bully.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. I got in
switch.
touch with my Harold Jewish self, and I was like, I'm going to convert. I mean, that did not happen. It's funny, though.
Oh, that's funny. Let's talk about your website, JustinShenkarow.com, for a minute, because you've got a blog where you give advice to aspiring voice actors, like listing top agents for voiceover actors and ways to break into the business. Talk to us about your passion for helping others.
Yeah, well, I was actually on the Screen Actors Guild board for 5 years, and I was the national chair of the Young Performers Committee. So I represented all actors under the age of 18, which there are over 19,000. Because I felt growing up as a child actor, I wanted to really give back and help other child actors with a lot of tips about the business, and especially with Screen Actors Guild, I was really sort of in charge of like the rules and regulations for child actors to make sure, they're not working too many hours on set, that they have a set teacher, that they have a separate Coogan account, which means that, the money that they make goes into that account and they can use that not until they're 18. So that way, none of their money is squandered. And I felt that it's important to get back and educate people on the business. And a lot of times people come up to me and ask me how to get into voiceovers or, who are the right voiceover agents or tell me something about the business. So I figured I would just write a brief blog and see if I could help people answer some of those questions that I hear on a periodic basis.
So, Justin, we always ask our guests, and we talked a lot about what old TV you were watching, but we do have an interest in what you're watching or streaming now. So what, if we looked on your DVR, would we find?
So much. I mean, there's so much fantastic television on right now, as I'm sure you guys are aware. I just finished this show on Netflix called Bad Blood. It was a season 2, which was sort of like this gangster show, which was terrific. watching Handmaid's Tale on Hulu. I finished Ozark on Netflix. What else? Silicon Valley I love on HBO. Let's see, I think what else am I watching? I think that's sort of it right now. But
Okay.
I mean, I'm always discovering new shows, or friends are telling me, "Oh, you got to check out this show." And you know, the great thing about streaming and the bad thing is that you can just get sucked into a show, and suddenly 6 hours of your life
Yes.
is gone.
Yeah. Like every once in
or
a while, I wish I could be sick. You know, like I just,
Right.
you know, like as
Yeah.
a mom, you don't get to have like a sick day, but I would love to just crawl in bed like when I was a kid and just watch like
Yeah.
all day and catch up on these things. Yeah.
That's totally, yes.
It doesn't
yes,
happen
yes,
anymore.
Yes. So there are some incredible shows on there now, and I'm streaming. I just finished, so I write as well. I just finished a pilot, and I shot a sizzle reel, which is sort of like a 3-minute video about the show. So I'm pretty excited about that. So I'm just actually out, just beginning to pitch that show to networks and production companies. So hopefully you'll see that show on in maybe a year if I can sell this bad boy. It's pretty fun.
Well, that was my next question. What do you have coming down the road for us? Where can we find you next?
Yes, so I just wrote the show, and we just shot a few-minute sizzle about the show. It's called My Jewish Mother, and the premise is that we're pitching as the Kardashians meets Schitt's Creek.
Okay.
And the premise is that my mom moves from New York and decides to move in with me and hire a camera guy to shoot a reality show about my life to resurrect my acting career. And at the end of the pilot, we end up selling the show to Bravo, and we actually have a reality show about our life. But it's a show within a show.
Oh, that's
Similar-
fantastic.
It's almost like a Truman Show.
Okay.
Good luck.
Yeah.
I hope that gets picked up. I'll watch that.
Thank you.
Where can we follow you on social media?
Cool. So, yes, please follow me on social media. You can find me on Instagram, /Justin Shenkarow, Facebook.com/Justin Shenkarow, Twitter.com/Justin Shenkarow. Reach out, say hi, tell me that you heard me on this fantastic podcast with Nick and Elizabeth, and I love to chat with fans and, find out their favorite stories of stuff that I've worked on or just sort of chat back and forth. I'm grateful to be able to act and be a voiceover actor full time, and it's always wonderful to connect with fans. So I really appreciate following me and saying hi.
Man, Justin, this was a
Thank
great hour. I really want to
thank
thank you
you.
for
It was
joining
fun.
us, sharing your stories.
Absolutely.
Because, when you grow up in a time period, there's nothing like talking about shows from that time period. And
Sure,
I really
totally.
enjoyed, Eerie, Indiana as a kid, and having you on the show is kind of a dream. So I appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me. And, bring back Eerie, Indiana.
That's right.
Oh
That's
yeah,
right.
we forgot to say that. Where's the petition? Where can they find the petition?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know, because I'm not in front of my computer, but there is a link to it, and I will find it, and I will send it off to you guys, because that would be great. I mean, that's
Fantastic.
the one show that, literally, it's like every show, as you guys know, in the whole world has been brought back except for Eerie, and I want that show back.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right.
But this has been super fun, and I appreciate you guys having me on it.
Our thanks to Justin Shenkarow for joining us on the program this week.
Loved him.
I did too. Very energetic guy. Loved the stories, and we're so thankful you took time out of your schedule to be with us.
Oh my gosh, people. When he found out that Justin sometimes talks for actual stars in the show, seriously, I wish we were like a filmed podcast, because you could not. I mean, the cat that ate the canary next to me was so excited he got this little gem of information.
Well, I didn't know that before.
Yeah?
No, I
Wow.
thought all the lines from Tom Hanks or whoever was them, but maybe not.
Well, but think about it. If they're
Oh, I
working
know,
on
I
a
get
different
that.
program or a different project, how are you going to do that?
You're not going to bring him in to say, hey, get back here.
Right.
You're going to figure it out. You can find us on social media at Fancounters Live. Please go there to follow us. And also, we have a group on Facebook. We have a public group with over 30,000 of you hanging out. But our private group is Sharpie Nation. If you want to join, you can look for that on Facebook. You can also...
Always email us at hello@fancounters.com.
Yeah, if you have a guest suggestion, somebody you want us to bring on the show, please send it along. We'll do our best to get them on the show. And if we do, I'll let you know, and we'll get some questions right from you.
Yes,
Very
super
cool.
fun.
What other podcast puts you in touch with a celebrity of your choice?
That's right.
I don't know of any.
Me neither.
I know. Never mind. I'm not going to say that. Okay, so that's going to do it for us. We hope you have a good week, and we will be back here next Friday with a guest who's got a new series premiering on television next week. We'll hear all about it, so come back.
We'll see you later. Bye-bye.
This was a podcast from the PodFix Network. You can check out more shows like it at podfixnetwork.com.
Here we are. You've got the script. Everything is okay in it?
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you guys for putting together that outline. It's very thorough and, does a great job of just sort of highlighting the exciting points.
It is so fun to research the guests and find some hidden nuggets.
Well, and that is Nick's job. And I have to tell you, in the couple of years that we've been doing this show, he does a remarkable job of vetting our guests.
I mean, you dug up some stuff that I buried so far deep in the past, I can't even recall. But I've had to really, really go back there. So some of this stuff is quite dark you've brought up, Nick.
All right. Well, dark. Oh, man. Okay, let's not go too much into
I'm
it now.
kidding.